understand that the LGBT movement needs some currency in order to gain ground. But as we brought to you time and time again down the line, the road to hell is often paved with good intentions. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions as to show why their road leads to hell. Firstly, can Type 8 ever work? My second question will be, does the LGBT movement really benefit from Type 8? And lastly, can the EU Type 8 without harming its own principles? So let me first go on to whether Type 8 can work. Now they first try to tell us that Type 8 is this small added thing they add on to the package that they're sending out to people. But first of all, this is principally inconsistent. It's almost akin to saying that they're really doing nothing at all. Because really all they're doing is giving out aid freely and adding this whole idea of standing for LGBT rights at the end of it. Really, it doesn't make a practical impact. We never saw how it made a practical impact and how it empowers the LGBT movement. We thought down the line, even in the third speaker, they couldn't make a proper defense of why this helps the LGBT movement at all. And even if they really do nothing, do you think that government will simply take their aid, which comes freely, say thank you very much, and then go on prosecuting the sexual minorities as they've continued to do so for thousands and thousands of years? This sort of prejudice and sort of regress of societal equality doesn't improve with their case, doesn't improve with the kind of lax policy that they have. But what is really debatable? What was really debatable was the policy that took a tough stance on aid in respect to the rights of sexual minorities. And this was the case that we took down consistently in our site. First of all, we told you firstly that it's arbitrary to discriminate against a sexual majority. So fine, it's arbitrary to discriminate against the minorities, but it's principally also just as arbitrary to discriminate against all others. But how do we discriminate against them? We discriminate against them when we don't allow them the aid to develop their schools, we don't allow them the aid to feed themselves or give them water to drink. This occurs when aid is being withheld simply because we don't think that they are fulfilling the sexual minorities, the rights of sexual minorities that the EU thinks that these countries should have. And in fact, we think that first and foremost, there's a need to save lives. When there's no food, no water or education, there is no consideration, in fact, of other higher priority needs, such as the rights of sexual expression.
Pardon me, sir.
Anything.
Yeah, sure.
We have never said that we don't want to give any other aid. Besides that, what you have been consistently saying is that first, this other aid must be given 100%. Well, that point would never come in your model, would it?
So madam, even we think that a proportion of the aid comes with it's hinged upon the rights of the sexual minority, we think that that proportion can make just as impact in furthering the rights and furthering and safeguarding the lives of these people in the developing world. Just because only a proportion is hinged upon the sexual rights of these minorities, we think that that proportion is crucial enough for us to debate on those grounds too. Now, in fact, they told us this already, they told us that other rights must be taken care of as well. And what Type 8 does is it inverts that whole principle. It inverts the idea of saving lives first and putting other people first and helping others first in response to helping the minorities, helping the sexual expression of these minorities. And we don't think it's principally justified, we don't think that's fair. And even if it allows for the LGBT movement to go forth, we think that the LGBT movement has greater legitimacy in this case when it's able to get its own grounds on its own merits. And we think that it's allowing to evolve organically allows the EU to push forward for a greater and more stable change. And in fact, we think that the EU has a worse right to impose this value judgment on these people, and therefore we don't stand for this. And even worse in their case, because what they're standing for is tokenistic measures by the government. This results in insidious discrimination. We don't realize that they're being discriminated upon, but because they don't have the education, because they don't have the proper education to learn from, they don't progress out of the societal stigmatization, and therefore true social change never occurs. I'm going to transit on now to my second point of contention on how whether or not the LGBT movement really benefits from this. They first try to tell us that including rights on the LGBT movement as an agenda promotes progress. But first of all, we've told you down the line, the LGBT movement need these basic necessities in order to be empowered for the fight against inequality. When you don't have this, what happens is that the society becomes trapped in ignorance and trapped in not knowing what is out there in terms of globalized ideas, but rather trapped in a hegemonic model of patriarchal, traditionalistic, and cultural expression. Second of all, what the LGBT movement faces is stigmatization. Stigmatization from the rest of society because they are viewed as the people that are contributing the harms to society, the people who are denying the rest of society aid and the rest of society the benefits that aid will provide them. And in fact, we think that aid shouldn't be used in this way, because when aid is used in this way, the EU has, having a moral duty to help people means aid must be given in terms freely in terms of no harms whatsoever. And we think that when the EU provides aid in this manner, they hold the developing world hostage because of the economic disparity that these developing countries have that is principally unjustified. I'm going to move on now to my last point of contention, whether the EU can tie aid without harming its principles. Firstly, they told us the EU is based on equality and helping others. And we think that this is exactly why we shouldn't penalize other countries for holding the values that we have. Secondly, they told us that the EU benefits from standing from equality. But this is not true. The EU isn't standing for equality in this case. What it's standing for is an EU idea of what equality is. And that EU idea of equality, first of all, neglects its cultural circumstances. They neglect the cultural realities of what these societies have grown up about. They neglect the traditions and the folk tales that these people have grown up upon of a very traditional male role, of a very traditional female role. They don't understand the variance in between, and that's what education through foreign aid provides them. Secondly, it also neglects the ground of which the situation with regards to perception. So the way that these sexual minorities are being perceived by society in today is precisely that they should be killed for their sexual perception. They should be killed for their sexual orientation. And this sort of very entrenched ideas aren't easy to get rid of. You have to take a long-term aspect of reviewing and re-education and re-informing and changing the very ideas upon which society operates upon. And what aid does is it creates a very short time frame for this society to evolve. It's a choice between accepting someone else and eating your last meal. And we think that when that choice is presented to people, it's a very Hobson's choice. That people will take this choice of pretending to accept the other people's, but not very willingly. And when that happens, the perception isn't a very concrete one, it's something that can be easily regressed, and it's something that doesn't promote long-term change. And lastly, we think that it worsens EU relations with these ideas because the EU cutting off aid further isolates these countries. This entrenches, first of all, the hegemony of the patriarchal views in society, and second of all, worsens the EU diplomatic relations with these countries. So these countries can't have diplomatic relations to further other societal aims, such as women's rights, such as quality of education, such as providing humanitarian aid, simply because they isolate these countries and leave them to rot and die without ever helping them in any of these cases. So no matter what cause they're standing for, we've shown you two things. First of all, we show you that the aid cannot be tied into any single cause, because aid must be given freely, first and foremost, to improve the human condition. Secondly, we told you that tying aid practically doesn't work because firstly, it doesn't promote real social change, and secondly, it harms the ideas of equality and free acceptance that you pride itself upon, and therefore, go with side opposition.